There are over 400,000 differences in the biblical manuscripts.
The reason for that is because we have such a huge amount of manuscripts, giving us an insane degree of attestation throughout history. And the same Bart Ehrman says that most of the textual changes are completely insignificant and immaterial. Most of them are honest mistakes and misspellings, and no Christian doctrine is affected by any of them. These are the variants in the New Testament text, giving the New Testament an overall accuracy rating of 99.5%.
The majority of the authors of the Bible are completely anonymous.
No, the authors not being mentioned internally is how the vast majority of ancient autobiographies were written. These types of works had to have been externally attributed. Tertullian attributes the Gospels to the Apostles. So does Saint Irenaeus. So does Clement of Alexandria. So does the Muratorian fragment. So does Papias. So does Jerome. So does Origen. And finally, here is a quotation from New Testament scholar Simon Gathercole. He says the most likely conclusion to be drawn is that the attributions of authorship to the apostles are original and authentic.
Compare this to what he says about the Quran. He says that you will very rarely find any differences in the Quranic manuscripts.
How about working on the Quran?
Yes, when I stop valuing my life, that's what I'll do.
All right.
There were two big discoveries in the last century, and one of them was the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's actually 6, 7 or 8 or 9 different places, maybe a dozen places, where manuscripts were found from, that date from the 2nd century BC to 130 AD. So we now have manuscripts that are 1,000 years older than the Masoretic text.
It really brought about a different kind of discussion about the evidence for the transmission of the text.
When we look at the manuscript, the oldest manuscripts from the Dead Sea Scrolls, there are two kinds of copying. One kind of copying we call repetition. This simply means that the person who copied the manuscript copied it exactly as they saw it. They copied it letter for letter, word for word, and even the layout on the page, even the format, even the way the text was arranged on the scrolls, the writing of the text, they copied it exactly as they saw it.
Repetition, almost trying to be the equivalent of the future printing press, if you want to say it that way. Would that be a good way to describe it?
Exactly.
And so they were very disciplined in doing this.
There's a scroll of the Psalms from Masada. It's basically letter for letter identical to the text from 1,000 years later. These approaches to copying are motivated by faithfulness to the Word of God.
Yes.
You cannot update the text unless you have a standard text. So resignification or modernizing or updating the text presupposes a standard text.
Yeah. So the standard text is the anchor by which the person doing resignification is grounded in, and it keeps the text from actually losing its originality.